I think this is my second day on this particular topic, national economy. And last time, I think day before yesterday, no, we did it up to economic terms. And what do you mean by the aggregate demand? Just I want to recap. This aggregate demand means the consumer spending, private investments, government spending, and net exports. Then balance of payment means it's a summation of current account, capital account, financial account, and balancing item. But I have explained the main three items: current account, capital account, and financial account. And I explained the present situation of Sri Lanka as well. But when we learn more with this today's context, you can understand in detail about the Sri Lankan context. Okay. With that, I will proceed. Understanding the working of the economic indicators. What are the economic indicators for a country? Normally, in every country, you can see Central Bank of Sri Lanka or Finance Ministry of Sri Lanka. They will publish, maybe the statistical department, they will publish these economic indicators. Now here, there are so many indicators. We will try to learn something. Okay, production, income. Production is a one. It can come under several headings. Maybe under production, maybe under income, maybe under employment, price levels, inflation. Then fiscal policies. Normally, fiscal policy also referred as the budget policy. Then demand management policies also referred to as monetary policies. These are two words we have to learn when you learn about the economics. That means fiscal policy mainly related to the budget. It's related to the budget policies. Monetary policies means how to reduce the demand. That we will learn later. Trade and industry policies. That means why we need these trade and industry policies, framework for creating growth. Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, maybe some problem with the. I don't think, I think I just tested my mic. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Maybe can you check your own system? Okay, we will do it. Then balance of payment. Now, balance of payment I explained to you. Then foreign exchange flows and the rates, then international wealth and liabilities. Those are just headings. Now, when you write the answer to this kind of economic question, try to give some brief details about each topic. Okay, but I will teach you what kind of things you have to write. Then what are the selected indicators? Normally, when you learn about the economics, there are so many indicators, but there are some important main indicators. One, we call it as the rate of growth of GDP. I explain it, gross domestic product. Okay, that means within our country. One is rate of growth of GDP. That means the whole GDP. Then rate of growth of per capita GDP. Per capita means when you divide by the population, you will get the per capita GDP. Then what kind of growth you are expecting for the per capita GDP. Then rate of unemployment, rate of inflation, the rate of domestic savings, the rate of national investment, changes into the structure of the economy, the capital output ratio. And before I start my lecture, I showed you some snapshot. Now here you can see the inflation economic growth, policy rate. These are unemployment rate, per capita income. Those are the now here per capita income. GDP is not here. I will show you later the GDP and other tables as well. Now this is some main economic indicators they think to reflect the Sri Lankan economy as a snapshot. Okay. Now there are so many other indicators, but it depends on what kind of indicator you want to specify your specific reasoning of some topic. Okay. Then there are some more. The budget surplus, deficit, current account, and overall. Maybe some can say current account only, because that's a very important account, current account. That means that mainly give the trade account. Revenue as percentage of GDP, the growth of public debt, that's also very important. Now in Sri Lanka, everyone is talking about our debts. That means it's a huge amount. Those values I will show it to you later. After we learn about these things, then otherwise, if I show some slides on the values, you may not understand what kind of information you have to gather from these values. Then balance of payments, current balance, overall balance as percentage of GDP, the terms of trade, the level of external reserves. Then these are economic indicators. These are social indicators also there. Life expectancy at birth, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate. Now let's say, now if our country going for some severe financial crisis, and if our free health systems these collapse, then you can see infant mortality rate, maybe the maternal mortality rate may increase. That means our social indicators that will show you previously, let's say if you have a very small rate, but now maybe you can see maybe end of this year, or maybe when they calculate for the 2022, maybe there will be slightly higher, because now access to the free health facilities are restricted, mainly due to non-availability of the medicines in government hospitals. Then when they give prescription to buy from outside, maybe people may not be able to buy those medicines. Then you can see what kind of impact on the social indicators. Now, all these social indicators are related, majority of the social indicators are related to the health sector, life expectancy at birth. Now, here also, now if the pregnant mothers, they may not be able to get the nutritious food, that may be impact to the life expectancy at birth. Then crude birth rate, crude death rate, total fertility rate, then literacy level also. Now school enrollment rates, prevalence of under 5 child malnutrition. Now here I think you can hear so many things regarding the child malnutrition. Okay, previously we didn't hear those things. Maybe around 2 years back, these are not the hot topics, but now these kind of things come as very hot topics, because their impact has been now clearly visible in the society. Now our social indicators, now previously Sri Lanka was considered as a very health conscious nation. That means our free health facilities that serves very good living conditions to the poor people. But now those facilities deteriorated, and that there is a huge impact on the social indicators. Then poverty headcount, that also now increase. Now I think everyone knows now our middle into the lower income level, and due to the devaluation of the currency. Then we will have now we learned about some economic indicators. social indicators, and political indicators. Now, when the country is on a mess, you can see these political indicators also deteriorated. Now, just see about these political indicators and see what kind of situation now in Sri Lanka. Regularity of elections. Now, everyone is talking about the elections and we don't know whether election will be held or not. Okay, then regularity of election, freedom and fairness of elections, sharing of power, devaluation of power, multi-party system, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of media, incidents of political violence, incidences of grave crime, violation of human rights, governance, transparency, independence of judiciary, corruption. Why these political indicators are important? Now, maybe you may think I am doing the economy, why national economy, why these political indicators? Now, when you read about the IMF conditions or maybe the World Bank or European Union, whoever give the financial assistance to the country, they will request the country to have a reliable or maybe the transparent political indicators. Do you think they will give a loan facility to a corrupted country? No, they want that money to whatever the money they are giving to Sri Lanka, that's money also some money they have collected from taxpayers of different countries. Then these World Bank or IMF or whatever the funding agency, they have a responsibility to their stakeholders that they have given this money to a country that in that they will use that money for a proper distribution among the people. That means they want. Now, if do you think if we violate so many human rights, they will provide? No. That's why they are requesting you to have the proper human rights, then proper transparency. Now, corruption, all the things that will give you a political indication whether the country is in a worse situation or a better situation. Now, let's say maybe if Sri Lanka is a very poor country and if we have a very good political indicators, let's say our country is very transparent and corruption-free country, okay, maybe then someone can say we may not go to this kind of situation. That's another story, but maybe IMF may have given the loan now itself, okay? And that's also very important thing. And now here multi-party system. Now in Sri Lanka, there are so many parties are there, but some countries, they do not have these kind of things because they are having the authoritative type leaderships. Then these international financial institutions, they may not give support to those countries. That's why these political indicators and social indicators are very important to a country to get the relevant financial assistance. Okay, maybe especially the political indicators. Now, social indicators, if those things are lower, maybe we can get the financial supports to improve the social indicators that will automatically enhance the economic indicators. But whatever the financial assistance to get, we need this kind of political indicators in a positive manner. Then now we talk about the economic, social, and political indicators, but you can see these same indicators in a different perspective. That means input indicators and output indicators. Now, outcome indicators, we can refer GDP, gross domestic product, then life expectancy, adult literacy, unemployment rate, poverty headcount, those are outcome indicators. Then in input indicators, we can define savings, investment, budget surplus, deficit, school enrollment. Okay, some can say some are input, some are output indicators, but better way is to split the same things in economic indicators, social indicators, and political indicators. Then you can same way level of aggregation. That means aggregate indicators. GDP, life expectancy, fertility rate, age, literacy, regularity of elections. Okay, whatever the things, maybe someone can say this is a aggregate indicator. Someone can say this is a outcome indicator. Someone can say this is a input indicator. Now here, some sectorial indicators also there. Share of agriculture in GDP. That means it's related to the, now if you talk about GDP, it covers all the sectors, but if you consider only the share of agriculture, that means it's the agricultural sector indicator. Now, infant mortality. Infant means then sector is infant. That means we are identifying a specific group. Then primary school enrollment, primary school dropout, rate of voter participation. Likewise, you can identify these same indicators in different methods based on how to define your issues. Then some you can say qualitative indicators. Now these are qualitative indicators. Transparency, accountability, non-discrimination, equity, inclusivity, participation. Now transparency, you can't measure, but it is like a qualitative statement. Now maybe someone can say our election commissions having a transparent election. Then, but you can't say it's 100% or 90% likewise, but maybe you can say compare to last elections. Then that kind of thing you can say as a qualitative indicator. Now we will go about the other policies, government policies, what actions government does to achieve growth and stability of the economy. Now these government policies, previously I explained there are so many government policies, and I explained the national energy policy and the transportation policy. Now why we need this kind of policies? Our main objective is to achieve growth in the economy, then stability of the economy. Those are two things. Do not think we want these policies to stabilize the growth. This is two things, okay? Growth means economy will grow, and it's grow in a stable manner. That means now in our country, do you think our economy will grow? You may say, okay, no. But previously, when you compared maybe maybe around 6 months back, maybe somewhat there is a stable manner. It's there. The stability means it's like a stable or instability in the economy. I am not talking about the it's saturated. That's not the word I am trying to specify. Then there are some other policies. There are so many policies. Now here, mainly I want to introduce the two terms, fiscal and monetary policies. Now fiscal policies, those are through a budget. We are trying to do it. Taxation, expenditure, pensions, infrastructure, budget deficits, its financing, etc. all under fiscal policies. Then monetary policies means we are applying some other methods to control the economic growth. Interest rate, reserve ratios, money supply. Now, not the economic growth, try to control the inflation. Okay? And then industry policies, specific measures, incentives targeting industries. Trade policies, there are trade taxes, other import levies. Then exchange rate policy, how exchange rate is managed. Now, there are different ways I explained to you, maybe fixed exchange rate or floating exchange rate. maybe now government is, you can't, maybe it's like a mixed system we are using. Maybe to some extent we float, and after that we will, or otherwise we are having a ceiling level. Up to that level it will float. After that we will keep it as a fixed rate. It's the policy of the government, but normally these Western countries, maybe the IMF, maybe the World Bank, they mainly say, okay, you have to go for a market mechanism. When you go to the market mechanism, purely demand and supply will determine the market exchange rate. Then development policies, how well we distribute. That's the main important thing. Now in our country, do you think our country's wealth is distributed equally among the population? You can just think there are huge difference between the rich people and the poor people. Now in our country, you can see very rich people are there. Okay, compared with the Sri Lankan economy, very rich people and very poor people. Then in between, maybe rich, poor. Then average people, when you see the, if you draw a borderline, maybe now due to this present situation, more than 60-70%, it's less than the average income distribution level. Below the income, I think majority is in lower income distributed people. Then fiscal policies. In fiscal policies, we adopt these policies for a expansionary or contractionary manner. Expansionary means now economies expand. That means government is spending more on the economy. Contractionary means government is applying so many restrictions to control the economy. That maybe that I will explain to you. Then I will explain these words later. Then needs and challenges: rising expenditure, falling revenue, ballooning deficit financing. What are the, why we need these fiscal policies? Now someone will ask why we need these fiscal policies. Now what are the fiscal policies? Mainly taxation is the fiscal policy. It's like through a budget policies, we are trying to adopt these policies. Now why we need these fiscal policies? Then we are having rising expenditure. Now at present, we are having rising expenditure. Then what is the best thing government can do is to introduce the taxation. That means once they use the taxation, government will collect all the money with you, maybe the majority of money with you. Then your spending ability, government will automatically reduce through these taxation policies. And then other thing is, now when the government revenue is falling, now they want to collect money. Then ballooning deficit. Now our deficit is, it's not like a, it's like an exponential growth in the deficit. Then they have to find the deficit financing. Now that's also very important. Now when we need to have the deficit financing, now here if you increase the interest rate or whatever the things, you may not be able to do that kind of deficit financing. It's indirectly. Now mainly this it's like a monetary policy. Now here the fiscal policy, government try to control the rising expenditure, falling revenue, these deficit things. Then they want to have the debt servicing, social welfare. Government wants to do the social welfare. Now how do government find the money to carry out the social welfare? They need to introduce the taxation, or maybe whatever the method they want to collect the money. Now for that, they will introduce these fiscal policies. government should intervene and stimulate the economy out of recession. That's the main important thing. Now, when we have a recession, now Sri Lanka is at a, I don't think we may not say recession, it's a deep recession. Now, economy should be, someone has to move forward the economy. Now, how do you move forward the economy? Do you think this private sector will alone can do? No, normally in this kind of recession, definitely government should intervene, because otherwise private sector mainly they do the investment on profit motivation. They may not invest anything because they may not able to get the money back, money return, or maybe they may not get the expected profits. They may not invest. Then only option is government has to intervene. Okay, now do you think the social welfare will be carried out by the private sector? Okay, maybe they will carry out this CSR project or whatever the things, but that does not mean they will give continuous support to enhance the poor people. Now, government, okay, maybe some of the, or maybe some other financial packages, they will give at least 5,000 rupees per low income group per month, maybe whatever the money. It's like they will provide some assistance. And other main thing is government has to stimulate the economy. Now, if they just give the money, that will again cause the rising expenditure. Now, if they give money free of charge to the people, then people will again go and buy all unnecessary products, everything. Then they should have a proper control. Now, in a recession, what are the main concern? Major concern, inflation would be a major concern. That means we can see very high inflation. Now, we are talking about more than 70%, 60% inflation in our country. Okay. Then output growth is very low. And now our production, everything is very low. Then the unemployment also increasing. Those are the main concerns during the recession. Then other main thing is we are having the balance of payment major challenges during the recession. Okay, situation, trade in perennial deficit, export growth sluggish, and import rising. Exports are narrow-based, debt-based capital against FDI. Now, what is the issue of the balance of payment? Challenges, creating export growth, diversifying exports. Now here main in the balance of payment, main important account, I call it as the current account. Now in the current account, if we have the exports greater than the imports, then we can see current account is positive. Now it's a trade deficit is there. Then if we can increase the balance of payment, now in our country, balance of payment is negative. Now, okay, maybe with this IMF package, whatever the thing, if we can increase the our reserves, maybe we can increase our capital financial account. Then here I am just trying to explain it to you. I want to recap that part. Financial account, then capital account. Okay, now IMF telling we have to have the loan restructuring. Then we may able to have some surplus, because if all our donors they accept the restructuring, loan restructuring, maybe another next 2 years, maybe we can have our current account surplus, because we do not need to pay the loans. Then there is no outflow. Then if we can get some reserves, then financial account would be a surplus. But to have the government itself, they have to impose stringent import bans and Also, if they can enhance the exports, then we can go for a deficit. Now, if the government may not able to control the imports, then we may not able to have the positive balance in the visible trade account. That means another thing is now these current accounts having the visible and invisible, the services, tourism, remittances. Now, interest means we in our country we have not invest major things in other countries. That means we may not get the interest from the other our investments. Our main thing is providing the services. It's like IT services, maybe these airport aviation services, maybe the shipping line services, then maybe this UN military mission services, whatever the methods, we have to get the dollars into the country. Then tourism, remittances. Then invisible trade account. Mainly we are having a positive surplus, but the value is very important thing. Okay? Then seriousness of BOP issues. Now, why this BOP is very important? They hit very quickly. Exchange rates crash, capital flight. Countries will face serious forex deficiency. Will need bailout at the now we are in the IMF bailout situation. Okay. Now all the things has happened to Sri Lankan economy. That's why proper managing the financial situations in a country is a very much important. That's the duty of the Ministry of Finance and especially the central bank. Maybe they have not identified the correct precautions or correct mitigation actions, or maybe they may have think their actions may give a positive turn, but that may not happen in previously. Okay, maybe now due to stringent measures, now our control mainly through the import restrictions. I don't think we may able to expand our exports during these times. Now to expand the exports, there are some investments to happen, or otherwise we may have to identify new markets for our products. Okay, maybe there would be some increase in the exports, that may be true, but mainly the government has taken a very stringent measures to control the imports. Then we may able to control something, and also government, I think last year April, they declared it as a we are not paying the loans. It's not a restructuring or anything. They declared by their own that Sri Lankan government will not pay any loans until Sri Lanka will recover. Okay, then automatically our capital accounts, capital outflows automatically reduce, because we didn't have the sufficient reserves in our country. Then fiscal deficit on BOP. Higher government expenditure typically has heavy import content. That's the thing I explained to you. This means rising government expenditure affect BOP current. Capital borrowings increase domestic liquidity. Steady capital borrowings will BOP current account. Capital borrowings increase domestic liquidity. Domestic liquidity means whatever the capitals, now we have to control in a proper way. Now That means one action may lead to another issue. That's we have to think about. Now, when you have this kind of messy situation, we may not able to identify correctly with to see what kind of proper action we have to take. Maybe we have to take one action and see the repercussions. Okay. Then we have to take steady capital borrowings will increase the reserves. That's the other main important thing. You have to have the capital borrowings, and the other main thing is when you take these capital borrowings, that should be in a reasonable interest rates. Now, previously, our governments, they took the loans with these exim banks, maybe the private institutions, with a very higher interest rates. But if we can get the loans from, let's say, IMF, World Bank, or maybe Asian Development Bank, that kind of financial institutions, rather than these exim banks or private institutions, their loan repayments are having a grace periods, or if interest rates are low. Those are the things. That means we can improve our reserves. Short-term borrowings can cause serious pressure on the POP, because as soon as you take the borrowings, you have to pay. Now that's the issue in Sri Lanka. Now short-term borrowings, mainly these treasury bonds, these are short-term borrowings. Maybe we are taking a treasury bond for maybe, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, maybe less than 1 year, that kind of thing. Then you have to give huge interest to attract these treasury bonds. Now, let's say if you are giving 30%, if you take 10 million, then you have to pay 3 million at the end of that particular year. Then it's just to pay. Now, government may collect the money, but they have, as soon as they collect the money, they have to reserve, or they have to keep 30% of that money they have collected from the treasury bills to pay the interest rates, or maybe within 3 months time, or maybe the 1 year later, depends on the duration. Then their effective component may be around 70%. And that will give a serious pressure on the BOP. Then lack of right fiscal incentives for exports. Wrongful incentive increase imports could cause more trouble for trade balance. Now, government should give correct financial incentives for the exports, then automatically export market will develop. And other main thing is we have now to overcome the recession. Okay, government can spend the money for the social welfare, but that does not mean we can overcome the situation. To overcome the situation, we have to have the positive balance of payment. Now you have to explain how to achieve the positive balance of payment in a country at a recession. Okay, then you have to explain these terms. Then government policy for growth. Then what kind of growth we are considering? Mainly the incentive-led exports growth. Now, every government, they should give incentives to the export industries. That's why now in our country, you can see these BOI zones. These zones, their main objective is they are giving some tax concessions and they are providing the other facilities. Okay, maybe now they are talking about this golden visa for the people who are investing in Sri Lanka. Their main objective is to promote the export-oriented companies. Then promoting industrialization, rural development for income redistribution, that's also very much important. Now, in our country, there is a huge issue about the wealth distribution. Trade pacts to promote exports, that I will explain to you under international trade. There are trade agreements. Now, European Union is a one. Now, there are so many countries, but there are no restrictions among the countries. But now in Sri Lanka, we also try to go for some South Asian agreements, those kind of things. But due to this China, India, Pakistan, the political issues, they have not opened up that kind of level. Now, if we have that kind of economic trade promotion agreements or trade pacts, maybe Sri Lankan people can access to the Indian market, or other vice versa also happen. Indian market will explore the Sri Lankan market, and all our Sri Lankan small scale businesses and enterprises may collapse. That's also happen. That means you should have a proper regulatory measures, but these trade, we have to promote the exports. Now, we have to promote the exports means we have to find the other markets. Provision for essential inputs like health, education, law, and order and defense. Political stability should be there. That's also a very important thing when you adopt these fiscal policy rates. Now, the issue is now you can compare our present situation, whether we are having a stable political system. Okay, maybe someone can say, okay, maybe around 9 to 10 months back, we didn't have any stable political stability, but now we are having, okay, maybe that's true, but that does not mean it's a very stable government. Normally, these financial institutions, they give loans because they want these governments should spend this money in a correct manner. Then suppress heavily taxed goods with negative externalities, create public goods with positive externalities, providing funds at low interest. Now, providing funds at low interest means not the personal loans, to promote the industrial development or export-oriented factories. Now, if you want to implement factory, then there should be a way to obtain low interest loan. But now they also have to go for a loan for a 30%, 5% interest rate. Then no one will invest, or no one will implement a factory by getting the bank loan. Now, at presently, our economy, but every aspect, that means every parameter that do not facilitate for any growth in the economy. That means now government has to stimulate that part. Now, managing price stability, low inflation. Now, if we can manage the price stability, we can manage the inflation. Then maintaining exchange rate. Now, that's also a very important thing. Now, government previously, I think you can remember, before last year, March, our dollar rate was around 203. Suddenly they open up. That means they float the US dollar. Then it has reached more than nearly to 400 Sri Lankan rupee. Then it reduced, and now it's around 365, 370. But now we do not know whether it's a fixed rate or the float. They have floated it. We don't know. But according to the internal sources, they mentioned now we are having some fixed interest rate, fixed exchange rate rather than floating. Now, if we float, they are telling it's more than 400 Sri Lankan rupees. Managing budget deficit, keeping debt levels under control. Here I am not going to explain everything because if I go, I may not be able to cover this one here, and I am not also expecting you to learn every word about this one. If I discuss among main points, and if you have spare time, just go through the notes, and if you want, you can refer some book, or otherwise just go through these notes 2 or 3 times. Then automatically, this is a general question you are getting. Then this general question you can include whatever the things you know, and you can write the answer. I'm saying it's not very easy, and it's not either it's not very difficult. Okay, you can write these questions with your own knowledge. Then controlling government budget deficit, then tax holidays to promote FDI. Now you can see now this port city project, they are requesting so many investors to come and invest, and they are giving tax holidays because that's true. Now if they give tax holidays, someone can say we may not get the tax income as a tax, but you can get more dollars into the account because they are spending on construction of the, let's say, buildings, maybe the other infrastructure. Then they will recruit the people within Sri Lanka. They will buy the products from Sri Lanka. Automatically economy will boost. Now let's say there will be, maybe let's say if they bring foreign people also to work, they will spend the money in Sri Lanka. Then transfers and poverty alleviation programs for social stability. Now here, during the crisis, you have to give a due consideration to the low-income groups because they are the people who will suffer at the most. Maybe the low-income people, they may not be able to at least eat the 3 meals. Maybe the low-income group children, they may not be able to go to school. They may not be able to buy a school book even. Then government should provide some social welfare package to enhance the living standard, or otherwise to maintain the living standard. You may not be able to enhance the living standard, just to maintain their very basic living conditions, at least to eat the 3 meals, or maybe to overcome the child malnutrition. I think now if you watch the news, you can see all the things in our country. Okay. Then public investment to create infrastructure. That's also a very important thing, but this infrastructure should give some return. Let's say if you do some infrastructure like a Lotus Tower, I don't know whether it's a correct investment. Or maybe if you construct a cricket stadium, whether it's, okay, you can say that will have some foreign investment, maybe these people will come and work in Sri Lanka, then they will spend. That's true, but whatever the ultimate investment should give a return to the Sri Lanka. During the investment, it's true. Now, let's say if you start this port city and still we couldn't get any return on the port city, but ultimately Sri Lankan government may have to pay our portion. It's not 100% foreign development, maybe some, let's say if it's a 10% Sri Lankan loan, then for that this 10% component may be a huge amount to Sri Lanka. Then leave space for private sector growth. That's also a very important thing. You have to encourage private sector to involve in the economic growth. Then structural adjustment. I think that's the very that I will explain, okay, because will the IMF bailout package be sufficient? I don't know, I am not the expert, but I will give you the points. You can see the impact, okay? That I will explain after this thing, okay? Structural adjustments, that's also everyone is discussing now. restructuring of the electricity board, restructuring of the Sri Lankan Airlines, restructuring of Sri Lankan Telecom, with Sri Lankan Insurance. Now, the structural adjustments, they are indirectly trying to get some foreign currency to Sri Lanka through some way of, you can't say it's like a privatization, maybe some kind of different name. Make sector focus and efficient. That's also they are now make state sector focus and efficient means indirectly restructuring. Restructuring means they are trying to engage the private sector, or maybe trying to give some shares to the foreign companies. By giving the shares to the foreign companies, they can get some reasonable foreign currency to the Sri Lanka. Now government main objectives to find they want to enhance the reserves. They need to enhance the reserves. Not only the reserves, maybe once they get some sufficient reserves, they may be able to pay back the borrowings as well. Okay. Then government revenue. Now in present scenario, our government revenue is more than the government expenditure. That's why they want to get money from the people through this taxation. Now heavily tax, they put a huge tax because they want to get reasonable revenue to cover the government expenditure. Still, they may not be able to cover the government expenditure. Then we are having a deficit. Now, previously, why we had that kind of deficit? Because they use expansionary fiscal policies. When the government spends more than it taxes, it's like they spend lavishly because they printed so much money, and maybe they have used all these foreign loans and other things not to do proper investments, maybe just to enhance the living standards of the people, but it's the temporary living standards. Now we are facing all the difficulty. That means they use the expansionary fiscal policies, but now to control, we should use the contractionary fiscal policies. That when the government taxes more than it spends. Okay, that means they will try to contract. Contract means now just think, now previously, let's say if your salary is, let's say 400,000, then you are having more than 36% tax on the your salary. That means previously, if you have a take-home salary, let's say 200,000, now with the taxes, everything, maybe your take-home salary is around, let's say 75,000. That means now you do not have additional 125,000 to spend. Then automatically, and they allow the contractionary policy to limit your expenditure. Now, limit your expenditure means automatically your buying power, and maybe not only the buying power, maybe your other expenses. Maybe previously you may have gone to every weekend, maybe you have gone to a dinner, but now you may not be able to go. And maybe if you go and buy goods from supermarkets, now you may have go to some smaller shops. And that's the way they try to reduce the expenditure of the people. Then when they reduce, when they do not have sufficient money to buy, their demand for these imports goods automatically control. Then they can restrict the import bans. And now, let's say if you want to buy, let's say some television or some other thing, Now, previously, maybe you can buy that for 20,000. Now it may be around 50,000, 60,000. Then you do not have the power to buy. Then demand for television will be automatically reduced. Then when they introduce the ban on bringing television to Sri Lanka, now that will justify because demand for television is also less. Then they can maintain those restrictions. That's the way they adopt the contractionary policies. Now, contractionary policies means they will try to reduce the economic activities. It does not mean the growth of the industries or any other things, but that will have impact as too. But expansionary means now other main thing is now government is giving the 25% interest rate to your fixed deposits. Now, if they are giving that kind of interest rate, let's say if we are having 500,000, you may think, okay, I will go and deposit that 500,000 at a 25% interest rather than spending on that. Okay. But previously, now maybe around 2 years back, our fixed deposit interest rates were around 5 to 6%. Then, if we have 500,000, you may not go and open a FD because you are getting only 5 to 6%, rather than you are going and buying some electronic items or maybe a refrigerator, TV, mobile, so many things. Then automatically, since your buying power is more because you think no point of saving due to the low interest rate, the people will use that money for their consumption activities. Then automatically, now these electronic goods, maybe the garments industry, they may think, okay, there will be a huge demand for the television sets, maybe huge demands for the electrical goods, and they will bring more and more electrical goods into the country by opening LCs, and maybe the foreign currency outflow will be high. Okay, that's the way of, it's like an expansionary policy. When the government spends more than its taxes. Now, people didn't feel because they paid your salaries by printing the money, but now the government is telling we are not printing money, we do not have sufficient money, so many things. Okay, then if we have a balance value, it's extremely rare. That means fiscal policy is neutral. Now, this fiscal policy is expansionary when the government spends more than it taxes. Fiscal policy is contractionary when the government taxes more than it spends. But our ultimate objective, now the present government, they are trying to introduce these contractionary policies, but up to now we may not be able to achieve this objective. Then when the deficit situation is there, you should identify size of the deficit. I think maybe around 8 to 9 months back, maybe last year, April, at least government did not know what is the size of the deficit. Frequency of the deficit, means of financing the deficit, they didn't know. Control on business cycle, direct or indirect, these things were not think at that time. Okay, maybe now they may have identified all the things, or maybe they have analyzed the situation properly. Now they may know the size of the deficit, what kind of financing methods, these things you have to identify. Then how do you get the government revenue? That's the most important thing. First one, they are taking almost 90% from the taxation. Now we are today also, we had a strong pretext on the taxation, but that's the reality. But I think everyone accepts that we should have some taxation policy, but the amount of tax is the question. Now, when the government is in a real crisis, their own revenue is the revenue from the taxation. Then you can see they will adopt so many taxation. Now income tax for the individual persons, then corporate tax for the corporations, then pay tax for the people who earn, then VAT. Now they have they introduced the social security levy, then trade taxes, custom duty, other taxes, excise taxes, non-tax revenues means they are adopting increase in the revenue license fees, maybe the passport fees, those kind of things. Profits and dividends they tax. They request some dividends to pay to the government. Fees, levies, whatever the method, their ultimate objective is to collect the revenues to the government. Now, now every country, not only Sri Lankan government, every country, their main revenue is the taxation. Then these taxes can be direct taxes or the indirect taxes. Now, direct taxes means it's an income tax, pay, corporate taxes. Those are directly imposed on your, maybe your pay tax on your salary. Now, income tax to a person. Then corporate tax to an organization. Those are direct taxes. Then the other way we call it as the regressive taxes, indirect taxes. Now, sales taxes, VAT, import taxes, excise taxes. Now, the social security levy. Now, whatever the product we are taking, they will put 2.5% for the final value and collect it. Okay, it's a huge tax. Now we are paying all the other things. Now, if you are a pay taxpayer, can you say, okay, I am paying pay tax and I am not paying sales tax, VAT or security levy? You can't say. Okay, those are indirect taxes. Everyone has to pay, whether it's a low income person or the high income or very rich person or very low income person. They have to pay these indirect taxes. That means indirect taxes means irrespective of the person or maybe irrespective of the income group, everyone has to pay that taxes. Then what are the deficit financing methods? That's also a very important thing. You should know the financing methods. Now, first one is the concessional financing borrowings. Now, concessional financial borrowings, normally we are getting from it as a government to government funding arrangement, or maybe some World Bank, IMF, Asian Development Bank, likewise some that kind of international financial institutes. Then you can get it from the institutional borrowings, like some foreign banks or maybe foreign institutes. They are not only the IMF, there are some other institutions, Exim banks like that. Then foreign market. Now, same way in Sri Lankan market, we are buying loans from anyone. Maybe we can ask, anyone can give a loan facility to Sri Lanka. Then they will give some, maybe an individual person can give, but they will ask you very high interest rate. Okay, those are the foreign sources. Now, why we need these foreign sources? That's the important thing. Why can't use only the domestic market? We need the foreign currency. Now every country to survive, now we have to import so many essential items. To import the essential items, we need the foreign sources, foreign currencies. To get the foreign currencies, maybe if we raise the foreign currency through the domestic market, that means we are not getting new inflow to the country. Now, local banks, if they give US dollars to the government, that means these US dollars are already within Sri Lanka. But we need US dollars from outside the Sri Lanka. Then domestic market sources, mainly treasury bonds or treasury bills. Then non-market sources, rupee security, whatever the things we can use for the, or otherwise bank, treasury will ask banks to give the money. Maybe normally they give the treasury bills, treasury bonds, or maybe the other financial institutions, they can say, okay, give some securities to treasury. Then bank financing from commercial banks, normally they do. Also from central banks, central bank, how they give financing, they in a country, they are having reserves. Now our country, central bank, they will keep foreign currency reserve, maybe the gold reserves in a country. Now in our country, we had gold reserves. Those things also last April, our central bank, they sold. That means we know now we do not have any gold reserves. Okay, maybe we may have something, but it's a very small quantity we are having. Why other countries keep gold as a reserve? They can keep dollars, or maybe they can keep foreign currency, because this is like a hard money. It's now when you have the currency notes, those are very much highly liquidity thing is the cash. But gold reserves, when they have sufficient reserves in a cash high, that means they will have higher reserves on foreign currency notes. Countries, they tends to reserve the other manners. Mainly they use the gold reserves. It's like not a 1 sovereign, 2 sovereign. It's like a gold bars. They will buy from the international markets and they will have the reserves. When the country in a difficult situation, maybe they will buy a gold at a lower prices. Maybe when the gold reaches higher prices, government can resell the gold reserves to the other countries. That's another method. Then what are the implications when we go for a domestic deficit financing? Then domestically, it's a non-inflationary but issue of crowding out. Then other one is domestic inflationary, keeps interest rates low but may cause inflation, called printing of money. Now other main thing is when you have deficit financing, there are so many restrictions. Now we do not have sufficient money. Maybe now the government, I think end of January, they inform to the public they may not be able to pay the salaries even because they told we are not printing the money. Now that's the thing. Now if we do not have sufficient, we need both. That means we need the foreign currency as well as we need the local currency as well. Foreign concessionary may sometimes get wasted. That's the other main thing when we get the concessionary financing. Normally now if our political indicators are very bad, automatically these, due to the corruptions and maybe that non-transparent way of spending, this money will get wasted. That's why IMF is giving so many conditions to satisfy before providing the loan. I think, okay, maybe they are trying to use the China for some forceful manner to give us some restructuring of loans, but still they want our government to adhere to a proper methods to utilize this money, because as soon as once they give the money, they should have a proper mechanisms to establish in our country to utilize that money. Then POP problems also require serious management. Then we can see the economic predictions and other things. Now you can see this is the global economic growth. This is the IMF World Economic Outlook. Now you can see this 2019. Now advanced economies, emerging market economies, and the world. Every economy in 2019 to 2020, every economy had a huge drastic reduction. That means that is why mainly due to this COVID pandemic. And after that, most of the countries, maybe in between 2020 and 2021, most of the countries, they managed to recover from this. You can't say it's a recession. Growth is negative. Growth is in a negative rate. But some countries, they didn't reach to a negative values. But majority of the countries, they managed to recover. Most of the emerging and developing economies also, they managed to recover. But why we didn't able to recover? That's the situation we have to see. Now again, in 2021, it reaches, but due to now present world war situation and other situation, again, all over the world, they are having a reduction in the growth. That does not mean the economies are negative. Reduction of the growth, and you can see the projections. Okay, but now here there are countries. Now, when you see the Sri Lanka, we may recover in some progress, but we may not be able to sustain that recovery. Now, here you can see global commodity prices. Now, everywhere, energy index had a huge impact due to this Ukraine-Russia war. Now, here, other indexes like a non-energy sales, agricultural index, everything, it's not a index value is increasing, or some are in decreasing manner, but you can see these decreasing, but still in a higher rate. Then global inflation also, you can see year 2022, it has been reached to some maximum inflation rate. Now here you can see the world inflation rates and emerging economies, they are talking about the inflation rates around 10%. But our inflation rate is more than 60%. Okay? Now, you can't compare Sri Lanka with these emerging economies as well. Now we are in a very bad situation. And they think the inflation rate will reduce in future. But in our case, okay. Now we can see previously it is reached almost 100%. Then it has been reduced 90, 80 likewise. Now, if we can adopt the proper policies, we may able to control, but to reduce the inflation below 2-digit number, it may take a long time to our Sri Lankan. Okay, maybe we may not know, maybe the huge development in the tourism sector, whatever the method, it may can recover very quickly, but it may take time. Okay? For that, you need the proper political indicators as well. And I am not reading all the things. Now here, what are the Sri Lankan economy present challenges? Okay, there are so many challenges we are facing. Now, severe COVID-19 lockdown impact, that's Sri Lanka may not be able to recover from that one. Then possible increase in non-performing loans, increase central banks treasury bill rates, low level of official foreign exchange reserves. There are so many things. I am not trying to go through one by one, just through. And here, that's also very important thing, deterioration of confidence. Now, deterioration of confidence means our political indicators are very low. And shortage of foreign exchange, so many things. Now, with how to overcome these present challenges. That's the other important thing. Now, maybe in 2019 end, we can identify these are our challenges. But still, we can identify these challenges now in a very severe manner and how to overcome. That's the main important thing. And this is the macroeconomic indicators. You can see another main thing is still we do not know whether these projections are correct or not. Okay. Now, I think now they have corrected all the things. Now, if you refer somewhat old central bank report, maybe around 2015 or prior 2015, all these values, these trade balances, all the things were in positive numbers. But if we have that kind of positive numbers, you may not imagine why today we are having this situation, because that's the other thing. If the political influences and other political forces, if they want to change, if they try to manipulate these statistics, that will give a incorrect picture to the world. And not only the world, Sri Lankan people also, they want to show Sri Lankan economy is they are managing in a very luxury way. Maybe people do not have any issues likewise, but this COVID situation and whatever the actions they have taken, and other countries, they also had a severe exchange rate issues or the financial crisis in other countries, and we didn't get our remittances, maybe the tourism sector, whatever the foreign currencies, we didn't receive, and we did not have sufficient way of generating our own Sri Lankan rupees. We mainly rely on the foreign funded projects or maybe the loans, and we may not be able to get those facilities. Then automatically country was collapsed, because we didn't, every time our current account, we mainly depend on the imports. We didn't have the sufficient exports. And our trade balances, now here you can see current account balances percentage of GDP. Now they have corrected all these values. Or otherwise, now here you can see they based on revised GDP estimates for 2019 made available, because they made these revisions. They have identified by doing the manipulations, they may not be able to carry out that means proceed with the country situation. Then they may have corrected these things. Now, if you go and refer 2015 central bank report and see the projections for the future, you can see all the values are, majority of the values are in positive directions. Okay. Now here you can say real GDP growth, GDP per capita, all the things are there. Okay. And impact on inflation. Now here you can see our inflations likewise. Now this is also, you have to think whether these inflation values were correct values they have present. Now in 2018, 2019 is less than 10%. Is it actually these values represent the Sri Lankan economy? That's the thing. But now it's presenting incorrect. Okay, now we don't know whether this 80% is correct. Maybe some persons, international experts, they are telling our rates are still more than 100%. But still now here they are telling around it's 80%, 90% range. Okay. Now here you can see the inflation growth. There are different inflations. headline inflation and the core inflation. Yeah, I have given you as additional information, but for your examination point of view, if you can write the inflation means, I will assume it's okay. But if you can explain the headline inflation and core inflation when you write your question, that means you can get more marks. Okay? Headline inflation is a measure of the total inflation within the economy, including commodities such as food, energy prices. Example, oil, gas, which tends to be much more volatile and prone to inflationary spike. Core inflation is the change in cost of goods and services, but does not include those from food and energy sector. Now, that is to reflect whether the inflation is included with the food and energy, because as soon as you introduce, now here you can see the year-on-year headline inflation and year-on-year core inflation. Now, headline means including the oil and gas, energy and the food. Though now it's not only related to the Sri Lankan terms, it's a world standard given the inflation. When you include the food and energy, that will show you the total inflation. It's like the total inflation, but that will give a very high inflationary aspect. And other things, now if you can exclude the food and energy, then you can see the behavior of the food and energy sectors. And let's say if the inflation contribution is more from food items, then government should control the food and energy sectors to control the headline inflation. Now the gas prices, fuel prices, food prices, those will contribute more in Sri Lankan countries. Then impact of money supply. That's also very much important. In the money supplies, there are different money supply sources. We call it as the M1, M2, and broad money. This M1 means currency. It's like a quickly converted to the cash. Okay. This M2 means quickly converted to cash plus some time deposit, certificates of deposit, and money market funds. Those are the definitions of the different money supplies. Now you can see our M1 money sources, M2 money sources, all the things are in a negative growth. That means it's like a reduction. And you can see in December 2019, it's suddenly having a huge growth. Why? Because they have printed so much money. Okay, this will give. Now here the all the money, broad money means includes narrow money supply. Narrow money means M1. Time savings and deposit, that means M2. Held by the public with commercial banks, also include the parts of foreign currency deposits of commercial banks. Those are the definitions, but just think, now in here, our money supply has been drastically dropped, but again, suddenly increased. Now you can see how much money they have printed within this period. Then here also these things, they are trying to print money, and or otherwise maybe they are taking some short-term loan borrowings from the banks, or whatever the method, they are trying to enhance the money supply. Then you can see the depletion of the economy of the years. I am not going into details. Now here you can see the GDP growth. Now here everywhere our GDP is in positive. Okay, that's why I told whether this kind of GDP growth is there, we mean Now from 2019 to 2020, it's a real negative growth. Again, 2021, they are showing a positive growth, but these things we can't challenge because these are the figures they have shown in the census department and the census and statistics departments. These are the Sri Lankan official statistics. Okay, but can you imagine this kind of things? Everywhere we are having negative, negative, negative. Then suddenly we are having a positive in this quarter. Okay, maybe some reason would be there. Maybe we don't know the exact reason, or maybe there may be inaccuracies of the data collection or something. Now, after that, again, we are having the negative values. Maybe another years later, or sometimes they may revise all the things. Now here the official rates, you can see the difference in January 2018. What is the rate we are having? Now, what is the rate in January 2022? Here I am talking about January 2022. Okay. Now treasury bills, foreign direct investments, all the things. Now previously we had foreign direct investments. Now we are not getting. Now here you can see our GDP growth. It's still in minus. Then current account balances. Now 2017, 18, 19, you can see this is the major fiscal balances. Now current account. Now current account balance mean mainly our BOP is negative. Okay, subsequent to the debt standstill announcements in April 22 and the escalation of balance of unprecedented level. Okay, and here no need to go and memorize any value. Just think about the behavior or the pattern of the graphs. You can't see any positive values in the Sri Lankan economy. That's the main thing. Okay. Then impact on fiscal sector. Now here I told you the debt. Now here you can see the percent as a percentage of GDP. Now 2018 it's around 84.2. Now it's more than that. Now our GDP is less than. Now we may not be able to pay these debts with our GDP. Now it is more than the GDP. Okay, that we have to find the method. That means now for a present GDP rate, that means we have to enhance our gross domestic product. How do we expand our gross domestic product? That means you have to enhance the small and medium enterprises within the Sri Lanka. That's the most important thing. Then government expenditures, then other fiscal operations. Now you can see the revenues in 2022. Revenue is nearly 1,500. Our expenditure is 3,000. This is billion, 3,000 billion. Then 1,500 billion is the budget deficit. Now here you can see government spendings were more high. Then this is the deficit we have to finance. And how do we finance this deficit? And what are the impacts of this deficit? That is the important thing of learning these economic principles. Okay. And here so many things I have explained it. Just go through these things. Okay. Only thing is up to now, since this is 2023 February, we may not be able to get the 2022 yearly values. They will be available after end of March 31st, once the central bank report is published. They mentioned they will publish by March 31st, but it may take first week or second week of April. Until that, because here you may see why I have put 2021, or maybe some point now here January 2022. Likewise, up to now, they have not finalized the 2022 all records. Okay, maybe some records available for the second quarter, maybe the third quarter, but majority of the information still they have not published in a central bank reports, because still they are preparing the reports and they are collecting the information. Maybe the second quarter information also not very much accurate for the 2022. Okay. And then impact on export earnings and import expenditure. Now here you can see export income and the imports. Now in our country, now here $9.6 billion deficit is there. That means our imports are very high. Now these are the things accumulated. Now here 9.6, 10.3, 8, 6, you can see 14, 24, 30. That means all together $35 billion accumulated due to this trade deficit. Okay. Now here 2021 also 8.1. Now you can see almost 40 billion, 40 to 45 billion. We are having a trade deficit because of our higher imports. Now to facilitate these imports, government spends their own reserves, or maybe they have taken short-term borrowings and they have used those reserves to pay these trade imports. Now 2022, now if we can get the 2022 results, you can see there will be a reduction in the imports, mainly because of these restrictions. That's the most important thing. Okay. Here I have given some text for your own reference. I am not reading those things. Now here you can see the tourist arrivals and see the impact on workers' remittances. Okay. Now up to Q2 of 2022. Now here, it's a huge reduction. Now it's previously in 2020, we had around $7 billion as a worker remittances. Okay, let's say average we are having around 7 billion. Almost it's 7 billion. Now in 2021, it has been reduced to 5.5 billion. But now here up to 2022, it's around 1.6. That means if we get another same value, we can reach maximum around 3.2, maximum 4 billion. Then you can see there is a 3 billion, nearly, let's say if it is 4 billion we have received in 2022, that means this 3 billion deficit from the worker remittances. Now worker remittances means it's directly impact on the current account, because it's a positive balance, it's a positive contribution to the invisible trade account. Okay. Now same way the tourist arrivals earning. Now in our average is around 3.5 billion per annum. Okay, that's the target we may able to achieve, around 3 to 4 billion. But here you can see up to second quarter, it's very low. That means to overcome the situation, definitely we have to provide good environment to tourism to boost, as well as we have to encourage worker remittances. That's the easiest methods. That means enhancing the tourism sector and encourage the worker remittances. But that does not mean now worker remittances also maybe if we can encourage, maybe we can go for at least 5 billion, 6 billion US dollars. That will give a reasonable contribution, but that does not mean we can solve the problem only through the worker remittances or the tourism. We have to limit the imports, as well as we have to enhance the export income as well. Okay. Then what are the challenges to overcome? That means our official reserves having a now depletion of foreign reserves. That's the main important thing. Pressure on exchange rate. Need to support monetary stimuli and deal with the possible inflationary pressures in the medium term. Hindrances to the monetary transmission mechanism. Now here, I have given you the slides related to what kind of challenges we are having. Now our main objective is to learn about how to overcome. Okay. Now this is the thing I just want to briefly explain about the engaging with IMF program. No one can say IMF program will solve all the problems in Sri Lanka, but you can see there is a positive impact on Sri Lankan economy when we go with IMF. That means if once Sri Lanka receive the first installment from the IMF, that will give a impression to the other, maybe the other countries or maybe the other financial institutions. Sri Lanka is adopting some transparent manner to utilize the funding from IMF. That's the main positive feedback to the Sri Lanka. Now, no one will provide you any foreign currency support because they think Sri Lanka is a corrupted country. Maybe we do not have any transparency mechanism. The money may not go to the relevant sectors. Now, in an international acceptable manner, they think if IMF gives the positive concurrence to go ahead with the loan, that means they have evaluated. That's why their teams are coming several times. Now, maybe they thought, okay, initially we may able to get the loan from around August last year, maybe September, October, maybe December. Now up to now, March, we may not able to get. That means they are trying to establish a proper transparent mechanism. That mechanism will support Sri Lanka to get the other loan, other donors to give loans as well. That's the most important thing. Another main thing is they will limit the printing of money. They will impose so many conditions. Likewise, restructuring of the state-owned enterprises, loss-making state-owned enterprises, to impose tax on the people. Maybe once the government committed, now government is trying to show that government is committed to impose tax on Sri Lankan people and try to get the revenue collection from the Sri Lankan people. Otherwise, they may say, now we are giving maybe the European countries or whatever the citizens tax money, and Sri Lankan people is not paying any tax and just lavishly spending the other taxpayers' money. Those are the things they are trying to secure by giving a loan. Now the value is not the important thing here. This 2.9 billion is a nothing because our trade deficit itself is more than that. Only thing is that will enhance some reserves in the capital account, but the Sri Lankan government has to comply the rules and regulations. Those are not the easy rules or regulations. Those are very stringent conditions they will impose on the Sri Lankan economy, and they will request any government, maybe this government or maybe the next government, to have a proper control on the Sri Lankan, that means fiscal management policies and the monetary management policies. And they have told you have to collect the tax revenue around let's say, I think it's a very high value. They are talking about around 18 to 20% of the GDP. But that's the target they are requesting government to collect. Okay. Now Sri Lanka has entered the IMF program. Then why we have to go for the current low level of international reserves servicing the significantly high debt repayments due to near term will be extremely challenging. That's the main thing. Liquidity in the domestic foreign exchange market, significant depletion of gross official reserves, and inadequate foreign exchange to meet the forex demand for essential imports such as fuel, gas, coal, medicine, and essential food items. Now, I think you may can recall now World Bank has given the loan around $70 million to procure the gas. Or otherwise, we didn't have money to procure the gas itself. Why World Bank gave this money? During that time, Sri Lankan government has given a confirmation that they have Sri Lanka will go ahead with the IMF bailout package. That up to now we didn't get the IMF money, but once you engage with them, that will give us some credibility to the other financial agencies to give the money, maybe the loans, to the essential requirements. They are not giving to buy other things, but now no one will give you to buy the foreign currencies to fuel, coal, that kind of things, because they have given to the domestic gas mainly because that will enhance the living standard of poor people, because otherwise people may not be able to cook. That's why they have given to the gas. Otherwise, no one will give you the loans, this kind of concessional loans to buy fuel, gas, or coal. But they may will give it to the medicine, maybe the essential food items, that kind of things. Other things, now for the electricity, IMF is telling, okay, you have to go for a cost-reflective tariff. Maybe water, they are telling, whatever the cost-reflective tariff, go it. Maybe unit price may be 40 rupees. Maybe in electricity, unit price may be 50 rupees. Then people will have to curtail their requirements. That means they have to reduce their consumption. If they want to reduce their consumption, that means reduce their money payment to these services. Here, these are the main thing. Another objective is once you go for this kind of package, they expect the social stability and the political stability as well. Now, if we had that protest or whatever thing continuously, during that time, IMF engaged with the Sri Lankan government officials, but let's say now almost almost 1 year, still we didn't get the positive, that means final positive feedback. They are telling, okay, next month. They are dragging that thing, and they are monitoring whether Sri Lankan government is printing money, or maybe they are giving other political concessions and other things. Those things they will monitor. They know that once they give the first installment, government may change their compliance. That means they now they are telling we will comply all the things, but they may relax these things. That's the normal way, but at least they are trying to use these stringent conditions to control the further aggravation of the Sri Lanka bad management policies. Okay, here major areas that could be expected to be considered in the discussion of potential IMF program, fiscal consolidations. That means the fiscal policies, appropriate monetary policy stance. Now, appropriate monetary policy means now these interest rates, you can see they are giving high interest rates for the FDs because they want all the money taken to the banking sector. That's the main thing. Then exchange rate flexibility, that's they are telling market sources to determine, phasing out monetary financing, reform of state-owned enterprises, gradual unwinding of capital flow management measures. Now that means capital flow management measures means now capital flows will come from short-term borrowings. Those things they have to, they are trying to control. Then the introduction of market-based pricing formula for utilities and strengthening social safety nets. Now, as soon as you introduce the market-based pricing formulas, there will be price hikes in the electricity, maybe the water, maybe the telecommunication sector. Now, telecommunication sector anyway privatized, water, and maybe the transport sector. They also telling. Then automatically, it's like a contractionary policies, and their main objective is to manage the Sri Lankan economy within Sri Lanka without getting unnecessary financial facilities from the other countries. Maybe especially the non-financial instruments. That means our country, they have taken loans not only from the Exim banks, maybe like a private companies or private banks, they have taken. Not the government, not only the government loans. And also in some sectors, they do not know what kind of investments they have carried out with this money, because it's just to they have obtained the foreign currency loans, and no one can show the accountability of this kind of loans. That means it's purely corrupted, and that transparency is needed. Okay, now that's the things they are trying to introduce through engaging with IMF program. Okay, now you can see the stakeholders of the economy. You can see it's so many stakeholders: government, banking sector, non-banking sector, whoever you can imagine, they are the stakeholders in the economy. Now, when you try to manage the economy means you have to see the impacts of each and individual stakeholder. Now, let's say now central bank is a main stakeholder. When they introduce the higher interest rates, okay, maybe the people of Sri Lanka may get the advantage. They can get the higher interest rates for their fixed deposit. But let's say what will happen to the industrialists? They may not be able to obtain a bank loan because loan interest rates are very high, and they may not be able to fulfill their industrial requirements. They may need to expand their factories. Maybe they may want to buy raw materials to their factories. Now, for all the things, they are taking loans from the bank. Okay, then what would be the impact on the retailers and wholesalers? Then now, once the people save in fixed deposits, they do not have sufficient money to spend. Okay, then automatically retail services, everything will drastically reduce. Now that's the main thing. Now when you try to manage the economy, you have to see the individual impacts to the every stakeholder. Then maybe the when you watch the news, you can see some banking sector people will object, maybe the investors may be object, industrialists may come and give their views because everyone had the negative impacts. Now, if the economy is moving smoothly, no one will come and say, we are earning this kind of profit and we are in a very good earning very good profit. No one will come and say like that. But whatever the negative impact comes, they may come and raise their voices. Now here, what are the critical issues? Debt and forex concerns, financial sector concerns, microeconomic stability concerns. Now, those are the things we have to overcome, mainly debt and forex. That means debt means loans, forex means foreign exchange concerns. Now, these are the critical issues, confidence in the financial system. Now, you can identify within the previous main three headings: confidence in the financial system, credit risk and liquidity risk. That means now our ratings, different rating companies, they have downgraded our Sri Lankan ratings. Then the liquidity, that means we do not have sufficient money. Liquidity means it's like if you should have a cash flows, but we do not have the cash flows. Now, best example is to pay in salaries. Now, to pay in salaries, you can't use the credit card. You have to give the cash. You have to deposit the cash to the individual employee's account, or maybe you have to give the cash to the employer. That means now when you buy some product from the supermarket, you can use the credit card, but for the salary, can you do it like that? Can you give a credit card to every employee? No. That means government has to find the cash. Then payment settlement systems. Now that's the main problem. Now every organization, they may have a problem of paying their creditors, or maybe debtors, they are having the issues of pay. Strengthening the legal framework to maintain stability, anti-money laundering and countering the financing. That's the other thing. Now, once you fix these foreign exchange rates, then people will find another options to send the money. Surveillance on foreign exchange transactions, and they use all these Mondial and other transaction methods. Then financial consumer protection. Then so many these financial institutions, they may have collapsed, and there are people who invested on these financial institutions, they may not be able to get the their money back. Then resolving debt and forex concern. What kind of things you can do it? Okay. Yeah, monitor forex flows, exports and investment. Now the government has introduced, everyone has to follow the path through the banking process only. And they also inform whatever the money they receive from the export, they have to bring that money within a certain period, and they have also impose a condition. Okay, I can't remember the percentage, maybe 60% or 85% of the export earning, they have to convert into the dollars. Then that means they are trying to monitor the forex flows. Then high-level discussions with respective governments to secure short to medium-term government-to-government finance. Now, let's say this Bangladesh government, they have given 200 million US dollars. Okay. Now they are asking that one, that's true, but they have given those things. Monetize selected non-strategic and underutilized assets. Now, government can sell the underutilized assets. Then FDIs into the Colombo port city, maybe the other industrial zone. Then tax amnesties for the persons who provide the inflows. Here and continue to pay scheme of pay and extra LKR to US dollar remitted and converted by workers abroad. Now, previously, let's say they are given 360, now they can say, okay, 370 or whatever other benefits they are taking. Continue the payment of additional interest on special deposits account. Those are the main objective is to attract forex concerns and how to pay the debts. So many things you can discuss. Here I am just identify some important points. Please go through those things. No point of going individual things. And there are at least when you write down your descriptive responses, write down these things. Do not, that's the same thing I'm trying to say. Do not try only one point trying to explain, because some answer scripts I have seen, maybe one point, the students are trying to expand for more than 1.5, 2 pages. Do not do like that, because main objective is here, try to show your awareness on this particular subject. Okay, not only your detailed awareness on one particular topic, because something you may have interest and you do not know how to control when you are trying to write that kind of question. Okay. Then resolving finance sector constraints. Now, how do we try to now previously that and forex control, now finance sector. Suppose the effort to strengthen the financial sector through introduction of appropriate tax reforms to facilitate non-banking sector consolidations, encourage state-owned enterprises to diversify their borrowing sources. That's the other main thing. That means now most of the state-owned enterprises, they depend on the money from treasury. But let's say if they request state-owned enterprises to get the loans from the banking sector, then automatically these state-owned enterprises, they have to repay the loans to the bank. But if they get it from the treasury, they may not able to pay back those things. That means, or otherwise they will limit their expenses. Encourage mergers, acquisition, as well as new capital infusion, maintain adequate level of capital and liquidity buffers. Now, how do we try to manage the finance sector? That means the banking sector. Okay, that's the main important thing you have to discuss in here. Then, what are the macroeconomic stability concerns means? Okay, this slide may be somewhat old, but still this is valid. But macroeconomic means now it's like an overall economy. Now, how do we use these foreign direct, attract foreign direct investments on the physical investment opportunities? Now, Sri Lankan government, I think around this slide may be valid around 2019, 2020, but still these projects are available. Only thing is whether now we may able to get the investments due to this present economic crisis. But main objective is to attract foreign direct investments. Then when you try to, now here you can see foreign direct investments are main important thing. Then how do you determine the, now here expand campaigns to attract foreign investors for Sri Lankan real estate, including condominiums. Now, prior to COVID, you can see there are so many apartment complexes, so many high-rising buildings. These foreign companies, they invest on them. But okay, maybe due to the COVID, and after that, this financial crisis in Sri Lanka, most of these apartments and most of these high-rising buildings, now they have given up, abandoned these construction activities. Okay, then you may see how can we retain these companies, or maybe how to attract the new companies. Now government has identified specific projects. Okay, maybe the urban development projects, mainly the urban development projects related to the apartments and other things. Maybe the city development. Now here they mention this development. That means urban development authority itself, they have identified the locations and they want specific investors to come and develop these things. Now let's say, just think, now this is the 1 billion. Now this is the Chalmers Granite in Fort. Now to develop this kind of city in that. Now it's around 1 billion US dollar they estimate. Now for this kind of investment, you can imagine what kind of economic stability, political stability should be within the country. Another one is the what is the impact on the negative political indicators what is the negative impact on political indicators will cause this kind of investment to happen or not. That's also very important. Then real estate development. Now these are not small amounts. Now everyone wants to get the profit. And do you think now with this present environment, we may able to manage this kind of attraction of this kind of foreign direct investments? That's a big question, but maybe still we may think this power and energy, those kind of fields, we may able to attract these foreign direct investments, but maybe they will say they need the tariff in US dollar term. No one will, previously they may accept the LKR terms, but now our rupee is depreciated and they may need the dollar tariff. Then we have to think whether are we allowing these renewable energy developments for the foreign countries, and whether if we pay the tariff in dollar terms, then are we getting the maximum benefit of using the renewable energy resources? Why we go for the renewable energy resources? That means to reduce the foreign exchange outflow. Maybe to construct the particular project, you may need the foreign exchange. Definitely you have to bring the solar panels or the wind turbines, everything. You have to incur the foreign exchange. But let's say if you have to pay the tariff also in US dollar terms, that means continuously it will outflow from the Sri Lanka. Okay, maybe your tariff rate will be less, that's true, but still are we getting the maximum benefit? But that's reality, you have to accept it, otherwise you may not be able to get the foreign direct investments. No one will come and invest in Sri Lanka if we say we are giving the return only in Sri Lankan dollars. Okay, I think with that, my part is finished. Do you have any questions? Here, just go through the slides. These questions would be very open-ended questions. You may, while you are writing the answers, you can link whatever the things you learn in a proper way. That means in a integrated way, you can write your answers. Okay. Do you have any questions? No? Then shall we conclude the session? Then try to go through the try to go through the slides again and hope you can answer the questions. Here, please keep it in mind, 2 questions will be there. That means part A and part B. Part A may be related to the national policies, and part B related to the some economic related, mainly the present conditions of the Sri Lanka, how to overcome that kind of thing, how to overcome the present situation using the IMF facility or whatever the method. Maybe you have to give your open-ended views, but when you try to write down, try to include whatever you learn from these slides as well. Okay. Shall we stop this? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Then, if you do not have any questions, shall we wind up? Okay, then have a nice day. Okay, good night.